Hello, everyone. It's John here. Hope everyone is doing well. So, I have some unfortunate news, and that is I know I've been promising the budget, uh, the video that we were going to create the budget, and we keep kicking this can down the road. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do that one more time just because I thought of something else we need to talk about before we uh, move forward. I want to make sure we have a really firm foundation before we build the budget. So I appreciate your patience with that. And there's a couple items I wanted to clarify from our last video, which, by the way, thank you for the feedback. I really do appreciate that. I And if there's something else that I'm not talking about that you guys would like to hear, please let me know. Questions, comments are always appreciated. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, and we'll do this. Okay. So yeah, kind of just rehashing, not rehashing, but we're going to go over a little bit of what I've talked about on the last video, simply because I have visual aids this time. I'm sharing my screen and I want you to visually see what I'm talking about. So I talked about how I structure my bank accounts, and we're going to go ahead and recap that real quick. So my primary checking account is where my payroll check is deposited into. I do have a debit card issued for this account. I said I keep in around $100 in on this account, but if you're married, have children, you may want to bump that up. Again, I do that for risk management. I won't rehash that part. If you want to go back and listen to that, I give my full explanation on that. I do turn off automatic overdraft protection for risk management as well, and I instruct the bank to decline the charge if sufficient funds do not exist. In my next account, I have accounts payable. And this is what I didn't mention in the last video. This was actually really important. I do not have a debit card issued for accounts payable, and that's again for risk management. Just like a business, this account is intended to pay your creditors at different intervals throughout the month. Once the funds are in this account, it no longer belongs to you. Now, again, that's more of a mindset. Technically, yes, it does. It's your cash, but when I move it on paydays, when I move it down to this account, that's my mentality. Under no circumstance am I going to be taking money out of this account. I think there's a few times when I've made an error because I had to guesstimate the statement because it hadn't cut yet, like for the electric bill. So I was just going off previous months and kind of guessing what my bill was going to be. But usually I end up overestimating by like $10 or $20. So in that situation, yes, it's okay to take the $10 or $20 back out. So it balances. Other than that, you got to leave it in there. It turns from an asset to a liability. It's money that you owe to your creditors. And sorry I beat on this drum pretty hard, but it's just something I take very seriously. As my manager would say, how does the saying go? It's like, I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I think I saw something move. I'm sorry, that is kind of funny. Only give access to trusted utilities and set up automatic drafts with routing and account number. Again, I have 5 or 6 entities that I have a high degree of trust with, that I give them my routing and account number for accounts payable. And of course, if they get hacked, obviously I would have to shut this account down entirely and get a new account. That's not something I would want to do, because having worked in the banking industry, I just know that usually once you get a checking account or a savings account, you usually have it for your entire life. It's provided you're at that same financial institution. a little tidbit, when I worked for the banking software company down in Lincoln, I would travel to these rural towns where our clients were, these community banks, and I was responsible for supporting our teller line software. And the tellers would often show me accounts from their elderly customers who had been there for 30, 40, 50 years, and they have like 2 or 3 digit account numbers, which is crazy because most of us have like what, 8 to 10 digit account numbers. It's nowadays, it just goes to show that it really is a lifelong thing. So provided you're, like I said, provided you're happy with your bank. Emergency fund, no debit card issued. Again, that's pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like I should probably say it. $1,000 start an emergency fund while working through paying off debt. Save up to 6 months of expenses right after paying off debt. And again, the budget that we'll create will show us exactly how much our monthly expenses are. And again, only used for emergencies. The float account, and I didn't mention this in the last video, no debit card is issued for this account. After the payables have been placed into accounts payable, provided there was no deviation in the emergency fund, all remaining funds will filter down to this account. At the end of the month, the entire balance will be transferred from this account to accounts payable for a large debt payment. So when I open up my banking app, I have my 4 accounts and they're in this order, and they're in this order for a reason, because it really does filter down. When I get my payroll check up here, I pay my bills, I make sure that there was no deviation. If there was a deviation, like I had an emergency in which I had to borrow, let's say $200, I got to put the $200 back. And then after everything's said and done, it goes down in the float account. And at the end of the month, once everything's there, I'll move it back up to accounts payable, where it will then be made, a debt payment, a large debt payment will be made. And then that process repeats for the next month. And that is the grind of going through this process. But it does provide some structure. It's a little bit cleaner than maybe just having a single checking account and savings account. Okay, so this is the fun part. We are going to go ahead and introduce our fictional scenario for our budget. And before I jump into this, I did double check my my Facebook friends, my Instagram followers, and made sure I don't have any friends named Victor. And in it, I do mention he has a degree in civil engineering. Yeah, I think I have counted 3 friends that are civil engineers, and they do really important work. You don't walk down in your basement and say, it didn't flood. Thank goodness we have good civil engineers that are preventing that. You don't even think that. It's just there. Like the work that they do, it just goes so unnoticed. So my hat's off to them. But let me actually read the bullet point. Victor's 23 and just graduated from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln with a BS in civil engineering, cum laude. So Victor is a smart guy. They don't let dumb guys into civil engineering school. And if they do, they're out within a semester or 2. So he is, like I said, he obviously is an intelligent guy. While in Lincoln, Victor worked part-time at Valentino's Pizza, a fine institution, if I may say so myself. Some of you might disagree with me. Mostly living from one pay period to the next. And I think if we're honest, that's most college students. Your student loans are in deferral. You're driving your car from high school. Yeah, you don't have a lot. You just don't have a lot of expenses. I mean, you may have some, but you're not going to have a lot, at least right then and there. Right before graduation, he landed his first professional job working as a junior engineer for the city of Omaha in the Public Works Department. Starting salary is $65,000 a year plus benefits on June 1st. And Victor is in a serious relationship with his girl. I automatically said girlfriend from college, Anna Marie. He plans on proposing within the year. So things are looking up for Mr. Victor. Feeling accomplished from 4 long years of engineering school and landing a great job, he purchased a brand new 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee. When his buddies asked him to go backpacking in Europe for 2 weeks, he did not have the cash, but decided to go, placing the expenses on his credit card. While hiking in Europe, Victor managed to sprain his ankle, which sent him to the ER. This incurred a medical expense. I can't imagine any more scenario that would be scary, being in a foreign emergency room. Like I said, it's probably fun traveling, but yeah, that does not sound fun. But I've heard people who've or have had friends that that's happened. Okay, so the very first step, what we have to do is we have to calculate Victor's net worth. So I want to be really clear not to conflate his worth as a human being with his net worth. I think that can happen a lot in our society, and it's not right. And anybody that does that, you just should not talk to them. I mean, or people who try to compare their net worth to yours. I mean, it's like I said in my first video, I think that's stupid. But people try to do that, and it's, yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. But moving on. So we're going to take a look at his assets. And this is as of 5/18. So he has not started his job with the city of Omaha. So as a college student, he has $475 in his bank account. He has $300 in miscellaneous assets, so probably things that he has in his dorm room. Yeah. And I didn't put if he was driving a vehicle from college, or excuse me, if he was driving a paid off vehicle, he would have already traded that in by this point because he bought the Jeep. So he does not have a vehicle. Or he's not driving the vehicle from high school. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's go over the liabilities. This is money that he owes other people or other entities. All right. So as of 5/18, student loans are $45,000. Auto loan for the Jeep Grand Cherokee is going to be $34,000. Credit card, where he placed his Europe trip on, and a few other expenses from college at $5,300. And he incurred that medical debt of $2,500. That brings his total current liabilities to $86,800. And of course, I didn't mention his total current assets are $775. So it's really simple to calculate somebody's net worth. Their total assets minus their total liabilities equals their net worth. So in Victor's case, he's going to have a negative net worth of $86,025. So this is akin to somebody who's trying to lose weight, stepping on the scale for the first time. These numbers should scare you, or should scare Victor, I should say. This is how it was for me when I did this exercise back in 2013. You list those, everybody that you owe, you list what you have in your bank account, and you come up with this number. It's scary, but change starts here. And that's the positive out of all this. I did mention Dave Ramsey's baby steps in the first and second video, but I think now that we have some graphic illustration, I think we should go over those. So Victor is his first step is going to be saving $1,000 for starter emergency fund. Again, when we actually go through the budget, we will detail that. In baby step 2, we've actually done part of this. We've actually have listed his debts, not smallest to largest, because if we go back to last screen, I actually listed on largest to smallest, but that's what when we create the budget, we'll inverse it. It's not a big deal. But that is the order in which he's going to attack his debts, by the balance, not the interest rate. And he's going to pay off using the debt snowball method. And all this is all those debts that he had, like the medical expense and the credit card, those have minimum monthly payments. So $2,500 on a medical debt, that's probably anywhere from $50 to $100. So once he gets that paid off, guess what he has to apply to the credit card bill? An additional $50 to $100. And once he pays his $5,300 credit card bill, which again, depending on his minimum monthly payment, let's just, for the purposes of exercise, say it's $200. Paying those two debts off, he's gonna free up, $250, $300, and that's how the snowball works. That's how it worked when I went through it. You feel good once you actually get an account paid off, and now you have that progress to go even faster, and it's always encouraging. In baby step 3, he's gonna go ahead and save 6 months of expenses once he's out of debt to create a fully funded emergency fund. And after baby step 3, Dave Ramsey does talk about baby step 3B, which is in between these two steps, which may be saving for a down payment on a house, which we could definitely incorporate into that fictional scenario as it progresses. In baby step 4, he's going to invest 15% of his income into retirement, because he's not going to be doing that on baby step 1 through 3, even if his employer does offer a 401k with a match, which is tough, I know, but he needs to focus in and get rid of that debt because it is destroying him. Baby step 5, if him and Anna do get married, have children, he will want to set money aside for their college fund. Again, we can play that out in the scenario as it progresses. And if Victor does buy a home, any money that he can, extra money that he can apply towards his mortgage, he's going to do that to pay off his home early. And then there's baby step 7, the really lucrative part, building wealth and giving. So I'm going to take a step back from our fictional scenario here for a moment and share with you an article that I found to be inspiring on here. Because again, I think we need to be able, in order to go through all of this, it's important to dream a little bit. So I'm going to end this, and then we're going to open this up. So I came across this article a few months ago. This is from December of 2019 in the Omaha World Herald. A real game changer. A $7.5 million gift gives Ralston's Hinge development a big boost. So a little bit of background on the city of Ralston. If you're not, most of my audience is in and around the Omaha area, but if you're not, Ralston is basically a city within a city. It's not very big. There was I don't know if it was in the 1950s or even further back from that, back when there was just farmland around Ralston. There was a mutual agreement between the mayor of Ralston and the mayor of Omaha at the time, and they agreed that Omaha would not annex Ralston, and that informal agreement has been in place to this day. So, and they hit, every year they put on a really, really good 4th of July uh, celebration, a really good fireworks show. Their tagline is Independence City, and as you can imagine, why. So the city of Ralston a few years ago built an arena. They took out a lot of debt to do it. They issued some public bonds, and they were really hoping that it would drive a lot of business and a lot of development to the area, and it certainly did draw some, but it's large in part they took out so much debt. There's only so many days on the calendar that you can fill an arena with, and even if it's at, they found out even with the numbers at 100% capacity, they're still just scraping by on making their payment, these bond payments. So to say it's the city's struggled financially is over the last few years since building this arena is an understatement. So this is an interesting story, though, with that background. A longtime Ralston piano teacher, known for a generous spirit, has made the first private investment in a plan to transform a stretch of the city into a vibrant, booming district. And it shares a story about LaDonna Johnson. She died in 2016, and she gifted the city $7.5 million so they could start their redevelopment efforts, which is a very generous gift. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, she was a piano teacher, she's an everyday person, working in her community. How was she able to give $7.5 million? Well, I didn't personally know Miss Johnson, but I have some guesses on how she did this. If you read the full story, she has literally lived in the city of Ralston her entire life. She actually lived in the same house her entire life from the age of 5 up until her death. So I don't know if her parents gifted her that house or if she bought it from them, but yeah, she's definitely been a fixture in that community for a long, long time. And I have some guesses as to how this may have played out, and I want to share this with you. So let's go up here. And before we jump into this, I do work for a registered broker-dealer. I have to give a full disclosure. I am not advocating this, American funds. I'm not implicitly or explicitly promising you anything. This is just a calculator. What we're doing here is completely hypothetical. We're dreaming out loud. So these calculators are, of course, you can use them. But I have a feeling Miss Johnson was a very frugal lady. You don't get $7.5 million with being sloppy with your money. So she was 73 when she passed away. Let's just say age of 23, 50 years, not 510, 50 years to invest. And, let's say $2,500. And, $2,500 times 12, that's $30,000 a year. If you're completely out of debt, including your mortgage, that's definitely within the realm of possibility. I don't know what she made, or of course, none of my business, but I'm just thinking out loud here. $2,500, and I'm going to assume a 6% rate of return, which is is very conservative for an index fund. I say she just did this consistently for 50 years. That's $8.9 million. Again, I don't know what she was invested or what she was investing in or how much or how long, but I wanted to run this exercise through so you guys can see the potential of compound interest over time. So the average S&P return is 9.8%. I use 6%, again, just being conservative, because we don't know what the market's going to do. But over the past 90 years, that's what it's averaged. So when I read this story, I first and foremost think this is just really inspiring. Here's a woman who has really impacted her community. She's taught hundreds, if not thousands, of students. She's obviously was really involved in our church. She and then she passes away, and she gives a bulk, if not all, of her estate, so the city that otherwise couldn't, they kick off a redevelopment effort to, drive more business and more growth and make it more prosperous. I mean, it's just inspiring. I mean, it really is. And I wanted to share that with you. If we go back to this, to this fictional example, this right here, this is preventing Victor from building wealth and being generous. It is. And it's funny because there's nothing wrong with taking a vacation. I bet Miss Johnson probably took a few vacations. She should have. She should enjoy her life, or she should have enjoyed those times. And I bet she probably. I'm gonna say that she probably didn't ever buy a new car. That's just a guess. Because here's what happens with this $34,000 Jeep. The moment you drive it off the lot, it loses 10 to 15% of its value. It drops like a rock. And he's immediately upside down on this loan. So this is a mess, and it has to be cleaned up. And I think Victor realizes that. And I think when we create the budget, he's going to develop a plan, and he's going to get after it. I want to thank you guys for listening to this series. And of course, if there's anything you want to hear that I'm not talking about, please let me know, or just any feedback, any questions. I'd love to hear it. Again, I want to thank you for your time watching this, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.